There are many ways to, and many opinions about, grouping students for optimum learning, but the key to student grouping is to do so with intention and to match the grouping strategy with the station task. There's a common tendency to place students in skill level groups and then leave them in those groups for an indefinite period of time. But we don't have to do things the way they've always been done. If you recall, we've viewed a helpful infographic from instructional coach Amy Jimenez that guides us to group students based on what we would like the outcome to be. So, if the task's purpose is a differentiated one, then we group students according to ability. If the task's purpose is to encourage teamwork, then we stratify or group students of different abilities. Now, when we look for authenticity or when we're seeking increased motivation, we should group students with similar interests together. However, if we're looking for a diversity of perspective as an outcome, it's good to randomly group students. If we hope to create a positive classroom culture where students show initiative, we can allow students to group themselves. And if we hope for learning to occur among and by students, we can try the mixtape method, where students are grouped heterogeneously by ability and interest level. If you'd like, pause here and take a minute or two to discuss with your teams the times you've sorted students into these grouping types. What were the benefits? What were the drawbacks? Now, creating groups can be a time-consuming process, so blended learning expert Catlin Tucker shares one strategy she uses to organize and manage her groups using Google Sheets. According to Tucker, quote, "I love not having to recreate groups every time I create a lesson or station rotation. I also don't think my students have any idea how they are being grouped because the groups change constantly," unquote. I'm not going to share this video with you right now, but it's a 1-minute instructional video included in our Wakelet board if you'd like to use this strategy to help make grouping students easier. Tucker also uses a strategy called stealth grouping. As her students walk into the room, she places a small colored Post-it note on each desk. That Post-it note signals to them their group. Then they grab their Post-it note and go to the corresponding station. Tucker doesn't tell her students what the colors are and what they mean, and she is very mindful about changing the colors up so there isn't any detectable pattern. Whatever method you use to group your students, be sure to keep changing it up because excited students are engaged students and engaged students are happy learners. So now let's take a look at resources that help address the critical needs of your students. So on the Wakelet board for this week, I've just added 2 links under what are some purposeful ways to group students. I've added the infographic here in case you need to ever use it as a reference based on the purpose of your task and you're curious as to how you should group your students. And if you want to read more about Catlin Tucker and the way she groups her students for station rotations, you can take a look at this linked blog post. It's a couple of years old, but it does talk about her stealth grouping, and she talks a little bit more in detail about the spreadsheet she uses to create her groups.